The office of Dr. Elias Merrill was cluttered, but in a very organized, chaos kind of way. Papers stacked in uneven towers, holographic displays blinking softly on his desk, and an assortment of alien specimens in tiny containment jars. It's carefully labeled with a meticulous hand. Elias sat back in his chair, rubbing his temples. He had just returned from a 10-hour research session analyzing luminescent protein patterns in Zephyrian moss. And he was, in short, exhausted. It was in that exact moment that the door to his lab hissed open. Elias didn't look up immediately. It was probably another intern, another request for supplies, or maybe a routine check-in from the station commander. But the sound of confident, rhythmic footsteps made him raise his head. Captain Lyra Voss stood in the doorway, hands on her hips, a wide grin spreading across her face. Lyra was one of those people who seemed to carry energy in the air around her, a human version of sunlight breaking through clouds. She wore the standard diplomatic uniform, but she had personalized it with a vibrant scarf that almost glowed under the lab's sterile lighting. "Elias," she said, her voice playful yet commanding. "I need a favor." Elias blinked at her. That was never a good start. Whenever someone said they needed a favor from him, it almost always involved something impossible or extremely inconvenient. "What kind of favor?" he asked, already suspecting it would involve more than checking a few samples or adjusting a holographic chart. Lyra leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend this weekend." Elias froze. His mind immediately replayed the words, as if hearing them a second time would make them any less absurd. Pretend to be. "Your boyfriend?" he asked slowly, his tone cautious. "Yes," Lyra said, nodding with all the seriousness of a person stating a scientific fact. "Just for the weekend. It's for the Zephyrian Diplomatic Summit. Apparently, being alone makes any guest suspicious. If I arrive alone, I'll be treated as a guest of dishonor." Elias nearly fell off his chair. "Wait, what? No sofa for me, right?" he asked, half joking, half panicking. He already had a love-hate relationship with Zephyrian's customs. Their crystal lounges and ceremonial sofas weren't just furniture, they were symbols of honor, trust, and political influence. Being left off a sofa meant you were invisible, and in interstellar diplomacy, being invisible could be deadly. Lyra laughed, a sound that was simultaneously musical and mischievous. "No sofa for you, unless you behave." Elias ran a hand over his face. "Lyra, you know I'm brilliant in the lab, but social deception is not my specialty. I can analyze alien DNA, map unknown chemical patterns, even decode biosignals in real time. But pretending to be someone's boyfriend? That's outside my skill set." "You're exactly why I need you," Lyra said. She stepped closer, lowering her voice slightly. "The summit is delicate. We need someone sharp. Someone who can notice things others won't. Someone human." Elias frowned. "Human. What does that mean in this context?" Lyra smirked. "It means you have something those diplomats don't. Creativity, unpredictability, the ability to improvise. If anything goes wrong, you'll find the solution. And that's exactly why we'll survive the weekend without a diplomatic disaster." He stared at her, incredulous. "You're asking me to fake a relationship, navigate alien politics, and somehow charm beings who see emotions and color patterns. Are you insane?" Lyra grinned wider. "Maybe. But that's why it's perfect. You're the only person I trust to do it. Plus," she added with a teasing glance, "you can wear a suit. I've seen how you look in a suit." "It might help," Elias groaned. The thought of wearing a tailored uniform designed for sleek alien ergonomics and trying to look convincing was enough to make him consider fleeing the planet. But beneath the panic, a flicker of intrigue sparked. This was unusual, exciting, even terrifying. And deep down, he knew he couldn't resist. "Fine," he said finally, rubbing his hands together. "I'll do it. But we need a plan." Lyra clapped her hands once, sharp and delighted. "Exactly. That's why we're partners for this mission. Now, First step, learning Zephyrian etiquette. Trust me, the moment we step onto Zephora, everything hinges on appearances. Elias adjusted his glasses and opened his datapad. All right, what do we need to know? Lyra leaned over, pointing to a holographic projection of Zephora's Grand Summit Hall. The room was massive, shimmering with crystal walls that refracted the ambient light into countless colors. Figures of all shapes and sizes moved gracefully across the floor. This is where the summit happens. Every gesture, every smile, every glance counts. If we misstep, it could be seen as an insult or worse weakness. Laya squinted at the projection. So basically, one wrong move, and we could spark an interstellar crisis over a sofa. Exactly, Lyra said, nodding. And the Zephyrians noticed details humans wouldn't even think about. The way you tilt your head, the direction of your gaze, even the timing of your laughter, it all sends signals. Elias ran a hand through his hair. I thought humans were supposed to be adaptable. This sounds like advanced alien chess. Humans are adaptable, Lyra agreed, smiling. But only if they're clever. And that's why you, Elias, will do fine. You just need confidence, logic, and maybe a tiny bit of charm. Elias snorted. Tiny is not exactly my specialty, and it's a good thing I'm here, Lyra said. We'll practice. First, pretend we're holding hands. Elias froze. What? Relax, Lyra said, taking his hand. It's subtle. Just enough to show unity without looking. Overdramatic? Lisa's hand was stiff, and his natural reflex was to analyze the temperature of her skin. The grip strength and the pulse pattern completely missing the point. Lyra laughed. Stop analyzing. Just hold it. Humans are ridiculous sometimes. He sighed, realizing she was right. All his intelligence wouldn't matter if he couldn't act human in this one tiny social way. They practiced greetings, seated positions, and the careful timing of smiles for the next hour. Elias felt awkward, clumsy, and entirely out of his comfort zone, but each moment also carried a strange thrill. The unpredictability of it all, the stakes of the summit, and the need to rely solely on human wit made his mind race in a way his lab experiments never had. By the time the briefing ended, night had fallen over the orbital station. Casting soft blue light through the observation windows, Elias looked out at the stars, distant worlds sparkling like diamonds across the void. Zephora would be just one more, among them, but it could also be a turning point. If humans, clever and unyielding, could navigate alien customs with nothing but intelligence and intuition, they could accomplish extraordinary things. You're thinking too much, Lyra said from beside him, startling him. Focus on the weekend. Remember, it's just pretending. And if it goes wrong, we improvise. Elias nodded, staring at the stars a moment longer. Pretending. Improvising. He had done that in labs before, but never on a galactic stage with alien diplomacy. The challenge thrilled him. Fear mingled with excitement, and somewhere deep in his mind, he realized this would not just be a test of skill, would be a test of humanity itself. The weekend had only just begun. And Elias Marrow, brilliant, awkward, and entirely human, was about to step into a world where every glance, every gesture, and every choice would matter. He inhaled sharply. No sofa, no problem. The shuttle that carried Elias and Lyra descended through Zephora's thick, swirling atmosphere like a silver knife cutting through mist. Outside the viewport, the world below shimmered in strange colors, forests of crystalline trees that refracted light into rainbow streaks, rivers that glowed faintly with bioluminescent currents, and cities that looked like sculpted towers of glass and metal, floating seamlessly above the ground. Elias pressed his forehead against the cool glass. He had read about Zephora in countless research files, but no amount of pictures or data prepared him for the beauty of seeing it with his own eyes. The air shimmered with energy he could not quantify, and the faint scent of ozone mixed with minerals filled the cabin. He inhaled deeply, trying to ignore the nervous flutter in his stomach. Lyra, sitting beside him, appeared completely calm, almost at home. Beautiful, isn't it? She said, voice low and reverent. You'll see Elias, the Zephyrians, take pride in every crystal they touch, every light they shape. You can't help but be impressed. I'm impressed, Elias admitted, eyes wide. But I'm also terrified. One wrong step, one misread signal, and relax, Lyra interrupted, patting his hand gently. We'll be fine. Just follow my lead. The shuttle landed smoothly in a circular plaza made entirely of transparent crystal. The moment the doors hissed open, Elias realized just how high the stakes were. Figures emerged from the glowing pathways, tall, elegant, beings with translucent skin that shimmered like opal in the sunlight. Their limbs moved with fluid precision. Their faces were expressive in subtle ways Elias had to consciously observe. A female Zephyrian stepped forward, her body radiating a soft blue light. "Welcome, humans," she said, her voice musical, but unfamiliar, resonating directly in the mind rather than the ears. A translator in Elias's suit provided a steady stream of text on his visor. "You are honored guests. May the light guide your stay." Elias swallowed hard. "Right, honored guests," he muttered, glancing at Lyra, who gave him an encouraging smile. She took his arm, and they walked together toward the city's ceremonial gates. Elias felt conspicuous. His human height and awkward posture stood out even among the elegant Zephyrians, but he reminded himself that Lyra had chosen him for a reason. Humans had a reputation for unpredictable brilliance, and sometimes unpredictability was exactly what was needed. As they approached the gates, a group of Zephyrians paused to greet them. Their luminescent skin shifted in patterns: blue spirals, green flashes, and faint gold streaks. Elias felt a sudden surge of anxiety. Each pattern was meaningful, a form of language he barely understood. He could already tell that reading these subtle cues would require more than just attention. It would require intuition. "Just smile," Lyra whispered, nudging him slightly. Elias obeyed, his smile stiff but presentable. The Zephyrians tilted their heads, studying him with what he guessed was curiosity. One of them, slightly shorter and radiating soft lavender light, extended a hand, or what Elias assumed was equivalent to a handshake. He hesitated, then offered his own hand. The moment their fingers touched, a faint pulse of energy ran through him. It's not painful, just noticeable. The Zephyrian's skin shimmered in acknowledgement. Lyra suppressed a laugh. "You're doing fine," she murmured. "See, humans can adapt." Elias nodded, though he didn't feel fine. He felt like a student standing before a complicated exam, one where failure could have diplomatic consequences. And yet, there was something thrilling about it. Humans had faced uncertainty countless times, had solved problems through creativity, logic, and courage. This was just another challenge. They reached the main summit hall, a massive crystal structure that glowed faintly from within. Light bent and refracted, filling the room with cascading rainbows that danced across the walls. The air was cool, but carried a faint vibration like the heartbeat of the planet itself. Zephyrians moved gracefully between the entrance and the center of the hall, their colors shifting to reflect mood, rank, and tension. A male Zephyrian approached them, taller than most, with gold patterns radiating across his arms. He spoke directly into their minds, calm and authoritative. "You are here for the Harmony Summit. Your actions will be observed closely. Be mindful." Elias nodded, unsure whether to bow, smile, or simply stay still. Lyra simply tilted her head and gave a polite, human-style nod. The Zephyrians seemed satisfied, stepping aside to allow them access. Inside the hall, Elias's eyes darted everywhere. The Unity sofa, a massive crystal bench carved in flowing curves, rested in the center. It was more than furniture, it was a symbol. Whoever sat there together during the summit was seen as a partner, a trusted ally, and Elias knew that if they misstepped, they might be denied this honor entirely. Lyra leaned close. "Remember, Elias, this is more than just sitting. Every glance, every gesture here matters. Follow my lead, and we'll be fine." Elias swallowed again. Fine, I hope. Their first encounter with other diplomats was tense but fascinating. Representatives from other planets, each unique in form and communication, observed them with careful curiosity. Elias noticed immediately that humans' lack of predictable patterns worked in their favor. While other delegates moved in ritualized sequences, the small imperfections in Ilias's posture, the subtle hesitation in his gestures, made the Zephyrians pay attention. They were curious, not dismissive. During the first ceremonial greeting, Ilias nearly panicked. A Zephyrian extended a luminous hand toward him, and his instincts screamed that touching it the wrong way could be insulting. "Wait." He froze. Lyra whispered, "Trust yourself." And Elias realized something important. Humans succeed when they combine observation with improvisation. He touched the hand gently, letting his intuition guide him. The Zephyrian's patterns glowed warmly, signaling approval. Elias exhaled. He could do this. After the greeting, the summit began in earnest. Diplomats sat in glowing circles, exchanging information through patterns, light pulses, and soft sounds that reverberated in the mind. Lyra leaned over to Elias, pointing subtly at shifts in color and timing. "See that? The green spiral just means curiosity. That ripple of blue indicates caution. Watch carefully. It's all about reading between the lines." Elias focused, his scientific mind kicking into overdrive. He had always excelled at analyzing subtle signals. This was just a new application. Slowly, he began to notice patterns, predicting movements and responses before they happened. Lyra glanced at him, impressed. "You're a natural," she whispered. But the weekend was only beginning, and not everything was straightforward. During a break, Elias noticed a subtle flicker in the seating arrangements, a slight rearrangement of colors and positions that suggested tension between certain Zephyrian factions. Using his human skill for deduction, he realized it might be a political maneuver to test new delegates. He shared his observation with Lyra quietly. "Brilliant," she said softly. "I think you might be better at this than me." Elias felt a small surge of pride. Humans, he realized, thrived not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they could think differently, improvise, and notice what others overlooked. In a galaxy of flawless, elegant beings, human ingenuity was a hidden force. As the day drew to a close, they were escorted to their quarters' crystal rooms that reflected light in ever-changing patterns. Elias lay on the soft bed, staring at the ceiling. He reflected on the day, the nervous greetings, the subtle signals, and the improvisations that had saved them from embarrassment. Lyra was resting nearby, humming softly. Tomorrow, he thought, the real challenge would begin. The Unity sofa awaited, and with it, the test of human cleverness, charm, and adaptability. One small misstep could undo all they had worked for, but he felt ready. For the first time in a long while, Elias was not just a scientist analyzing the world. He was a human standing tall in a universe that demanded both brains and courage and humans. He realized with quiet satisfaction, we're very good at that. The next morning, sunlight tore what passed for sunlight on Zephyr filtered through the crystal walls of Elias and Lyra's quarters. Elias rubbed his eyes and stared at the swirling colors reflected across the floor. Every day on this planet seemed to be a challenge, not only because of the unusual environment, but because of the constant need to read the Zephyrians. Subtle signals? Lyra was already up, moving with her usual grace and confidence. "Good morning, genius," she said, stretching lightly. "Today is the day we make our first impression on the summit proper. And yes, the Unity sofa awaits." Leah swallowed hard. The Unity sofa had been a symbol of trust, unity, and status for centuries among the Zephyrians. Only the most trusted allies sat there together during official gatherings. To the human eye, it looked like a beautiful, flowing crystal bench, glowing softly. To the Zephyrians, it was a statement of power. To Elias, it was terrifying. "I've been thinking," he said slowly, "the moment we sit there. Everyone will be watching our every move. One misstep, one gesture misread. And you'll be fine," Lyra interrupted, grinning. "You've already done more than most humans could. Just remember what we practiced." Elias nodded, but nerves still knotted his stomach. When they entered the main hall, the summit was in full swing. Delegates from dozens of planets shimmered and shifted in their natural patterns, communicating silently and with colors Elias had learned to interpret. He noticed immediately that the Zephyrians were evaluating them, not just their appearance, but their synchronization, their timing, their gestures. Stay close, Lyra whispered. We need to approach the Unity sofa carefully. It's more than furniture, think of it as a test. The sofa was placed in the center of the hall, glowing brighter than anything else in the room. Two Zephyrian elders, whose luminescence radiated authority, stood on either side. Their colors shifted rapidly, a visual language Elias was only beginning to understand. Elias glanced at Lyra. She gave him a subtle nod, signaling that they should move forward. Together, they stepped toward the sofa almost immediately. Disaster struck. A delegation from the neighboring planet of Ceralax had arrived early and, in a subtle display of territorial pride, positioned themselves in a way that blocked part of the path to the sofa. The Ceralaxians. Patterns flickered aggressively, what Elias understood as a challenge. One false move, and the Zephyrians would interpret it as a diplomatic insult. Elias froze. His instincts screamed at him. Retreat, assess, improvise. Lyra, however, moved forward confidently, offering the Ceralaxians a gesture of respect. Elias followed, carefully matching her movements, but his human awkwardness betrayed him. One hand waved slightly too long. One step landed just a little off. Rhythm and the sofa began to glow more intensely. A warning signal. Oh no, Elias muttered under his breath. The elder's colors shifted sharply, signaling that a mistake had been noticed. Lyra leaned toward him, whispering, Think, Elias. What would a human do? Ilias's mind raced. In the lab, he had solved impossible problems by observing patterns, predicting reactions, and improvising solutions. Now, the same principles applied. He noted the Ceralaxians' rhythm, the angles of their gestures, and the subtle timing of the elder's light pulses. Then, using a calm but deliberate movement, he mirrored the Ceralaxians' positions while subtly tilting his body toward Lyra, signaling unity without disrespect. The sofa dimmed slightly, acknowledging their adjustment. Elias felt a spark of pride, but there was still more to do. Finally, they reached the sofa. Lyra sat first, gracefully positioning herself in the exact center. Elias, following instructions and intuition, chose a seat slightly to her left, keeping a respectful distance while signaling alignment. Their human hands brushed lightly, a gesture that in human culture meant companionship, but in Zephyrian culture needed careful calibration. Elias held his breath. The elder's colors shifted slowly, then stabilized into a soft, approving pattern. A murmur of light pulses traveled through the room. Humans had passed the first test, but the victory was short-lived. A Zephyrian diplomat from a rival faction, noticing their success, decided to test them further. She approached with a subtle but aggressive pattern of colors, indicating a challenge. Could the humans maintain composure while under scrutiny? Elias noticed that her eyes, or what humans would call eyes, glimmered in a way that demanded precise mimicry and immediate adaptation. Lyra whispered, Just stay in sync. Watch the signals, not the people. Elias focused. He mirrored her posture, matched her slight head tilt, and adjusted his breathing to align with her subtle rhythm. It was an instinctive process now, combining observation and improvisation. Gradually, the Zephyrian diplomat's colors softened, a sign of acceptance. Elias exhaled slowly. One challenge down, perhaps 100 more to go. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of observation, subtle communication, and careful gestures. Elias noticed that humans, unlike the predictable alien delegates, brought an element of unpredictability that intrigued the Zephyrians. They didn't need flawless beauty or synchronized gestures. They needed cleverness, intuition, and creativity, qualities that no machine or alien culture could replicate exactly at one point. A minor misstep almost ruined the moment. Elias accidentally leaned too far forward, his hand grazing the edge of the sofa's surface. A sudden flash of light signaled potential offense. He froze, expecting the elders to react with disapproval. Instead, he quickly improvised. He gestured toward Lyra in a subtle, human-like motion that suggested cooperation and humility. The Zephyrians' patterns shifted again, this time signaling admiration. Humans had turned a mistake into a display of ingenuity. Lyra whispered, That's it, Elias. Humans solve problems. That's what makes us remarkable. Elias allowed himself a small smile. She was right. In the face of complex social systems, intricate rituals, and high-stakes diplomacy, humans thrived on quick thinking and adaptability. After the main seating and greetings, the summit moved into discussions. These were no ordinary debates. They were exchanges of light, rhythm, and carefully timed gestures. Delegates from multiple planets tried to dominate the conversation, but Elias noticed patterns they overlooked. Subtle shifts in color indicated when a point had been misunderstood, when someone's loyalty wavered, and when hidden intentions emerged, using only observation and intuition. Elias helped Lyra navigate these complex interactions. At one point, a Zephyrian delegate attempted a subtle trick, signaling a secret agreement that could have undermined their position. Elias noticed immediately and suggested a small, human-like improvisation, a gesture of agreement paired with a questioning tilt. It was enough to delay the decision without drawing suspicion. Lyra looked at him, eyes wide. "You're incredible," she whispered. Elias shrugged modestly. "Humans are good at solving problems we didn't create. We adapt." By the afternoon, the Unity sofa had become a symbol not just of status, but of achievement. Delegates whispered to one another, exchanging visual signals that the humans were clever, adaptable, and worthy of attention. The unpredictable brilliance of human thought turned what could have been a disastrous first impression into a success. Yet, even as the sun, or Zephyra's equivalent, began to set, Elias knew the weekend was far from over. Challenges would grow, testing their patience, ingenuity, and ability to maintain the delicate balance of pretending. Lyra leaned close as they left the hall. "You did it. The sofa recognized you both. The summit will be watching, but you've proven something important today." Elias nodded, still catching his breath. "I didn't just survive. I think I actually—" Lyra interrupted, placing a finger on his arm. "Don't jinx it. Tonight, we rest. Tomorrow, things get more complicated." As they walked through the glowing city streets back to their quarters, Elias reflected on the day. Every step had required observation, timing, and improvisation. Every gesture had been meaningful, and every mistake had been an opportunity to turn chaos into advantage. For the first time, Elias truly understood what humans brought to the galaxy. It wasn't raw strength, advanced technology, or perfect symmetry. It was creativity, courage, and the ability to improvise under pressure. Even among the most advanced civilizations, humans could shine not because they were perfect, but because they could think differently. And as the twin moons of Zephyr arose, casting soft silver light across the crystal towers, Elias realized that the real adventure was just beginning. The sofa was theirs, but the challenges of the weekend, the lessons they would learn about diplomacy, trust, and human ingenuity, were far from over. Humans, he thought, had survived worse. And somehow he knew they would not just survive, they would excel. The night on Zephyra was quiet, yet alive with a gentle hum, as if the planet itself was thinking. From their quarters, Elias could see the city shimmer under the twin moons, the crystal towers bending light into soft rainbows that stretched across the sky. He sat by the window, still replaying the events of the day. The Unity Sofa Challenge had been far more than a simple test. It had been a demonstration of human adaptability and quick thinking. For the first time, he felt he might actually belong in this intricate dance of alien diplomacy. Lyra entered the room, carrying a small tray with glowing fruits that pulsed faintly under the room's ambient light. She set it down gently and sat beside him. "I know you're thinking about today," she said, "but there's something you should know. Something more important than the sofa." Elias turned to her, curious. "What is it?" Lyra's expression shifted, her usual playful demeanor replaced by seriousness. "The summit isn't just about appearances. There's a hidden agenda at play. Some Zephyrian factions are attempting to manipulate interstellar trade agreements to gain power over other species. They're subtle but dangerous. And if no one notices, it could lead to long-term conflicts." Elias's mind immediately began analyzing. "And you want me? Why exactly?" "Because," Lyra said, leaning close, "humans notice things others overlook. Patterns, small inconsistencies, behavior outside the norm. I need your brain to help uncover what's happening. You've already shown you can improvise under pressure. Now I need you to analyze subtle signals and see the hidden strategy. Elias nodded slowly, feeling a mix of pride and apprehension. This was no longer a simple diplomatic charade. This was a mission that could affect countless lives across the galaxy. But deep down, he knew he could do it. Humans had always thrived under impossible conditions, turning uncertainty into advantage. The next morning, the summit continued. Delegates arrived, their luminescent patterns shifting subtly, signaling alliances, skepticism, and secret communications. Elias observed every interaction, noting changes in color, timing, and gesture. He recorded data discreetly on his wrist pad, connecting the dots between subtle movements and possible intentions. Lyra watched him quietly, occasionally nudging him or whispering hints. Look at that ripple in the counselor's glow. That indicates disagreement, not just with our position, but with someone else in their faction. Pay attention to the timing, it matters. Elias leaned forward, studying the movement patterns carefully. The ripple repeated at intervals, almost as if signaling hidden messages between delegates. He noted which delegates' luminescence synchronized with others, and which patterns were deliberately offset to mislead observers. Each observation added clarity, revealing the secret plan. Certain factions intended to manipulate the summit's trade. Agreements by presenting false consensus. He whispered his findings to Lyra. They're creating an illusion of unity. See the way the gold spirals shift when the green patterns appear? They're signaling each other privately, trying to make it look like everyone agrees. Lyra nodded, impressed. Exactly. And only someone not from their culture could notice it. Humans are outsiders, which works to our advantage. The day progressed, and the challenge grew. One of the Zephyrian elders approached them directly, speaking with a tone of subtle authority. Observe carefully. Decisions must reflect truth, not illusion. Elias understood immediately that this was both a warning and a test. He focused all his attention, comparing current interactions with past observations. By tracking patterns, timing, and subtle luminescent shifts, he mapped the relationships between factions, revealing the hidden alliances during a private session. Lyra and Elias were left alone in a side chamber. We have to act carefully, she said. If we expose the plot too early, it could backfire. We need proof, clear and undeniable, that can be presented to the council without causing panic. Elias nodded, already thinking through the strategy. We can track the repeated signals, cross-reference them with the delegates' official statements, and create a visual map. Once we present it, the council will have no choice but to see the truth. Lyra smiled, relief in her eyes. I knew I chose the right partner. Humans are clever, Elias. You see what others don't. The hours passed quickly as they worked together. Elias noticed that, despite his initial discomfort, he was thriving. Observing, analyzing, and improvising under pressure was familiar territory, but in a social and diplomatic setting. It had consequences far beyond a lab, and that made it exhilarating. By afternoon, he had compiled a detailed pattern map of the faction's secret communications. Lyra helped him interpret the subtle nuances, combining his logic with her experience in Zephyrian culture. The result was a clear visualization of the hidden plan. Certain delegates were attempting to push through a trade agreement that would give them disproportionate control, using subtle social manipulation rather than overt negotiation. Perfect, Lyra said, leaning over his shoulder. This is exactly what we need. The council will understand immediately once we present this. Elias smiled faintly. Humans make good detectives, I suppose. Even in a galaxy full of beings who can literally read thoughts or see patterns we can't, we still have our advantages. Lyra chuckled softly. That's the thing about humans. You're unpredictable, clever, and persistent. Sometimes that's exactly what's needed to save the day. Later that evening, during the summit's formal session, Elias and Lyra presented their findings. Using a combination of visual maps, carefully timed gestures, and subtle commentary, they revealed the secret communications to the council. The room went silent. Delegates' luminescent patterns shifted rapidly, a visual language of surprise, shock, and disbelief. The elders, whose authority had seemed untouchable, regarded Elias and Lyra with measured approval. One of them extended a hand in acknowledgement, a gesture of trust and recognition. Elias felt a wave of relief and satisfaction. They had succeeded without confrontation, using observation, logic, and human ingenuity to expose a hidden threat. After the session, Lyra turned to him, eyes shining. "You were incredible today. Humans may not be perfect, but we are resourceful in ways others cannot predict. And that made all the difference." Elias smiled, finally feeling the weight of accomplishment. "I never thought pretending to be your boyfriend would lead to this saving an interstellar summit by noticing what everyone else missed." Oh. Lyra laughed softly. "Sometimes the smallest human qualities, curiosity, observation, improvisation, can change everything. You've proven that today." As they left the council chambers, the city below shimmered in celebration. Elias realized something important. Human ingenuity, bravery, and adaptability were their greatest assets. No matter the complexity of alien customs or political intrigue, humans could rise to the challenge. That night, back in their quarters, Elias reflected on the day. He had been afraid of making mistakes, of failing in a foreign world where every gesture mattered. Yet through careful observation, logical deduction, and a touch of improvisation, he had not only survived but had helped prevent a potentially disastrous situation. Lyra joined him by the window again. "Rest tonight," she said. "Tomorrow, the final phase of the summit begins. There will be more challenges, but now we have the council's attention. We can act with authority." Elias nodded, feeling a newfound confidence. "I understand now. Humans aren't just observers. We can influence events, even in ways that advanced civilizations cannot predict." She smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "And that's why I wanted you here. Not just as my pretend boyfriend, but as a partner who can think, analyze, and act. You've done more than I could have hoped for." Elias felt a warmth that had little to do with the twin moons outside. He had discovered something profound. The strength of humanity lay not in raw power or perfect design, but in creativity, courage, and the ability to improvise when the unexpected happened. Tomorrow would bring more tests, but for now, Elias allowed himself a moment of pride. He had navigated alien diplomacy, exposed hidden plots, and proven the unique strength of humans in a galaxy that often overlooked them. And he knew one thing for certain: no matter what challenges lay ahead, humans could rise to meet them. The morning of the summit's final day dawned bright and clear over Zephyra, the twin moons still casting pale silver light across the crystal towers. Elias woke with a sense of purpose, his nerves tempered by confidence. The previous day's success had proven to him that human ingenuity, observation, and adaptability were more powerful than he had imagined. Lyra was already preparing for the day. She moved gracefully through their quarters, checking her gear and reviewing notes. "Today's the real test," she said, looking over her shoulder at him. "The council will watch every gesture, every movement. But we've prepared, and we've already uncovered the hidden plot. Now we need to ensure it is stopped without creating chaos." Elias nodded, feeling a steady resolve. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to act as a human in the galaxy, not just a visitor, not just a diplomat's companion, but someone whose thinking could influence entire civilizations. They arrived at the summit hall as delegations began to gather. The room shimmered with light, every Zephyrian participant radiating patterns that indicated mood, allegiance, and intention. Elias scanned the room carefully, noting the factions they had studied, the subtle signals of unease, and the timing of interactions that might reveal further manipulation. The Unity sofa stood at the center, glowing softly, a symbol of trust and authority. Lyra and Elias approached together, moving with confidence. Delegates shifted aside, and the elders observed them with measured scrutiny. Elias felt the same mix of awe and nervous energy he had felt on the first day, but this time it was tempered by experience and skill. As they took their seats, Elias noticed a subtle pattern flicker across the room. One faction was attempting to subtly influence a key decision regarding trade agreements. Using signals designed to appear neutral, Elias leaned toward Lyra and whispered, "They're trying to create a fake consensus again. If we don't act carefully, it could succeed." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "We need a plan that exposes them while preserving calm. Show, don't accuse." Elias nodded. Humans had a unique advantage here: creativity. They could improvise solutions in real time. He began quietly signaling Lyra, pointing to shifts in patterns, noting inconsistencies, and suggesting subtle interventions. Each movement, gesture, and expression was carefully timed to redirect attention without confrontation. The ceremony began. Delegates presented proposals, their luminescence shifting with each statement. The faction attempting manipulation tried to assert influence by signaling agreement through synchronized light patterns. Elias observed, analyzed, and whispered instructions to Lyra. Together, they mirrored patterns where needed, subtly altered gestures, and used human intuition to reveal the inconsistencies. The room fell silent for a moment when Elias noticed the final clue: a delegate's hand flicker, repeated at precise intervals, signaling secret coordination. Using his intuition and analytical skills, Elias used a combination of gestures and expressions to highlight the discrepancy in a way only the council could perceive. The patterns of light in the room shifted as the council recognized the truth. Lyra leaned close, whispering, "You did it. They've noticed." Elias allowed himself a small smile. Human observation and improvisation had turned a complex deception into an opportunity to reveal truth. Delegates murmured in acknowledgement, their patterns now signaling respect and admiration for the human's cleverness. The elders moved forward, their luminescence bright and steady. One of them extended a hand toward Elias and Lyra, a gesture of honor. "Your actions have preserved the integrity of the summit. You have shown wisdom, courage, and creativity. Humans are remarkable." Elias felt a thrill of pride. This was more than personal recognition. It was proof that human ingenuity mattered in the galaxy. The creativity, adaptability, and courage could make a difference even in a universe filled with beings far more advanced than themselves. After the formal recognition, Lyra turned to him, her eyes glowing with admiration. "You've done more than pretend to be my boyfriend. You've saved the summit," Elias chuckled, feeling a mix of relief and accomplishment. "I suppose humans are better at improvisation than we give ourselves credit for." The rest of the day continued with formal discussions, but Elias noticed a shift. Delegates treated them with respect, no longer observing them with suspicion. The unpredictability of human behavior had won admiration, and humans were now seen as clever, capable participants in interstellar affairs. During a break, Lyra leaned over to him. "You've proven something important, Elias. Humans don't need superpowers or perfect design. We thrive on ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. That's why we succeed where others might fail." Elias nodded, feeling the truth of her words. All his life, he had relied on logic, observation, and improvisation. On Zephora, these traits had allowed him to navigate a world far different from his own, to solve problems no one else could see, and to make a real difference. Later, as the summit concluded, the council invited Elias and Lyra to the central hall. The Unity sofa was illuminated more brightly than ever, and they were asked to sit once more as a symbol of human achievement. Delegates watched, their luminescent patterns conveying admiration, respect, and curiosity. Lyra whispered, "Humans have made their mark here. The sofa recognizes you not as a guest, but as a partner." Elias smiled. The symbol of the sofa, once a source of anxiety, now felt like a badge of honor. He realized that humans, with their creativity and courage, could hold their place in any society, anywhere in the galaxy. As they stood to leave, delegates from various planets approached, offering gestures of friendship and acknowledgement. Lyra whispered, "You see? Humans can do extraordinary things. Even in a galaxy of perfection, we have something unique." Elias nodded. For all their advanced technology, complex communication, and graceful customs. The Zephyrians and the galaxy had recognized one undeniable truth: humans, clever and adaptable, could solve problems no one else could. That evening, back in their quarters, Elias reflected on the journey. The weekend had begun with a strange, playful request to pretend to be a boyfriend. It had become a test of ingenuity, observation, and courage. He had faced challenges, nearly faltered, improvised solutions, and emerged stronger. He had proven that humans could navigate complexity, solve problems, and succeed in ways others could not. Lyra joined him at the window. "You've done more than survive, Elias. You've shown what humans are capable of." He looked out at the city below, the crystal towers glowing under the twin moons. "I understand now. Humans don't just react. We think, improvise, and find solutions others cannot see. That's our strength." She smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "And that's why we will always need humans, Elias. Clever, brave, adaptable humans." For the first time, Elias felt a deep sense of pride. Not just personal pride, but pride in humanity. In a galaxy filled with incredible beings and civilizations, humans had a place. They could face impossible odds, navigate the unknown, and succeed with creativity and courage. The twin moons reflected in his eyes as he realized something profound: humans could survive, thrive, and even excel in worlds far beyond their own. The summit was over, but the lessons would last a lifetime. Lyra leaned close, whispering playfully, "I think you make a very convincing boyfriend. By the way," Elias chuckled, feeling the tension of the weekend finally ease. "Well, maybe humans are good at pretending to, but today, I think we've shown what we're really capable of." And as they watched the Zephyrian city sparkle under the night sky, Elias knew one undeniable truth: humans, clever and resourceful, could shine even among the stars. The weekend had begun as a challenge, but it ended as proof: in a universe of advanced civilizations, human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability were forces to be reckoned with. Elias Marrow, brilliant and human, had not only survived Zephyr, he had shown the galaxy the strength of humanity, and somewhere deep in the heart of the Crystal City, the echoes of admiration and respect confirmed it. Humans had earned their place among the stars.